Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 102. We've hit our mid-season break. Next up is Spa. We have 3.5 weeks until we head to that race weekend. But of course, unlike in real life where you have a freeze, here we're able to continue working. So our final upgrade of the entire year for this year's car is complete. The manufacturing side of that will be done in time to have the new suspension on the car for Spa. We are going to be dropping off as the top team on the grid as the season goes on, but we've had a string of victories that have really helped put us in a very strong position to endure and survive through the end of the season and continue to score points. Maybe not win every race, but score enough points to hopefully still contend for both the drivers and the constructors championship this season. And we've turned our focus, of course, to next year's car with a major regulation change that is seeing at least a 50% drop in performance to each and every component. So we are investing heavily to research and now completely to research for the remainder of the season. With that current upgrade already complete, I still have over a month until we enter the next period. I'm out of time, but because of the regulation changes being so severe, so serious, that we've already got a side pod research project on the go, even without any bonuses. It'll be done just as we enter the new period and already offer, a healthy gain for next year's car. In the meantime, Dewan has picked up one research point himself, or one development point himself. Next year's game is looking at a redesigned progression model for the drivers and a regression model as well for the older drivers in the field. A couple weeks of training in Porsche has picked up that one point that Dewan had picked up on the last one, so he's back to kind of that level pegging. But I now have that 90 in braking, 90 in control. We're seeing a lot less mistakes from Porsche, at least I think we are. I'm going to leave it at 90 for a little bit and try to play catch up in some other areas. We're going to start with cornering. This is going to improve lap time, but it's also going to decrease the chances of running wide or spinning. So we're going to add some points, at least to about an 85, I think, for Porsche in that department, and make him that much faster and get that much more out of what is a good car. In the same window, De Beer has added another point. We're now bringing him up to an 87. He is our best. Of course, this is one of the guys we stole from another team. I'm not sure which team we stole him from. It might have been Ferrari. I might be wrong on that. I very well could be wrong on that. But, our two changes there. Meanwhile, Irwin and Jago have both added a point of their own, which of course we are now putting all of that into pit crew management these days, as the feedback, it's good enough, and actually we're bypassing everything completely, and the communication is definitely not needed, as they've long since worked together. So that pit crew management portion up to an 88 for Irwin now, and Jago up to an 89. Last season at Spa was a bit of a disaster for us. Jack Dewan crashing out with 5 laps left in the race, finishing classified 17th, with 3 other cars not even finishing the race at all, but Porsche only managing to recover up to 10th position. Only 5 seconds down, but he had issues as well, and it ended up being a pretty rough race. So it really can't go much worse for us this season. Let's hope it goes significantly better.
Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. This circuit was built in 1921, and even though its length was halved in 1979, the Belgian Grand Prix is still one of the longest, fastest, and most magical races on the F1 calendar.
And we are underway with our first flying lap and the fresh brand new compound of tires. Reason being, here at Spa, we are expecting rain in 2 minutes now. 1 minute until rain is supposed to come. We are the first ones out. If that hits at the tail end of our lap, and it's supposed to rain throughout the remainder of Q3, this could be a 1-2 for us, quite potentially. Dewan is purple in Sector 1. As of right now, how many cars have been through there, I don't know, but that rain is coming anytime, and we are very much on the tail end of the lap, catching up to 2 cars that got out, that have not started their flying lap. But there is the rain starting. The rain is starting to come down. It is damp, and we are entering the final chicane. We're going to come out of this, hit that finish line, and barely be impacted, but it's already up to 0.35 Pourchaire goes P1 for the time being with his time affected. Sector 3, Sector 1 yellow. We got double yellows. Do it. Somebody has crashed on track. The damp conditions are changing things, but Do It has finished his lap. 0.128. Magnussen crashed on turn 1. How do you crash on turn 1? Oh, he's just starting his lap right ahead of us. That was that car right there at the end. He runs long and hits the wall. So, and everybody else is starting their lap. This has got to be pole. This has got to be pole. Norris, you can see 7/10. And it's going to rain all the way throughout. So this is easy. Verstappen still manages to go P3. Russell still manages. Both still manage to go P3, P5. But there is your times. Magnussen, of course, has messed his lap up the most. We're into intermediate conditions, and it's not going to improve. Therefore, no one is going to improve other than maybe Magnussen, maybe Leclerc. Actually, really, some of these guys could improve on intermediates potentially, but they're not going to improve beyond what we have. So Pourchaire will start on pole. Doohan will start from P2. Leclerc and Magnussen, the only ones able to improve their time, but actually not even change their position. They just cut the gap down a little bit, as they were the last one out and the one who wrecked as soon as the rain started to fall. It is a P1, P2, even though we've definitely not been the quickest. You can see we are a good, well, don't take the time. Don't take the time, because there in the third sector, we lost some ground, just less than what everybody else was losing. In Q1, in Q2, we were about 5th and 6th place. So we're about third quickest here, at least on paper.
We have beautiful blue skies overhead as the drivers line up on the grid. Here's Williams. They're in P1. Let's see if they can take advantage of that position. And looking at the second Williams car. They're in second place on the grid, but that could so easily change in the first few seconds of the race. And we're just moments away now. Get ready, it's the Belgian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
All right, we are racing, and we're going to try to settle in very quickly and see if we can manage this race in a quick manner as we do start out P1, P2. Got an Alpine challenging Norris, challenging Russell. That's good. We're going to push on for a little bit. I'm hoping to get out of DRS range, as DRS is so impactful here. And we do have a nice interval on Russell right off the line, nearly a second ahead as they continue to battle, and we just locked right into our position. This could be a really, really good scenario if we can get away from Russell, who is now 1 second behind. Russell has end of the first lap, and Russell gains time right at the finish in that final chicane. He was really quick through there. Doohan has gotten around Pourchaire. 1.4 seconds. So we are pulling ahead here a bit as DRS is enabled. Again, we're going to continue to push through. Giovinazzi runs wide on 14, which, what is that right there at the end? That final chicane, little lockup. 1.7 ahead. Verstappen, who came with a penalty, even though he qualified P4, is down in P11 because of that penalty. He's got some new components under the hood. Two-second advantage. We'll keep an eye on that. Norris has gotten around Russell. That could give us an advantage to pull away a bit more. And for the moment, it looks like we have managed to grab an extra half second. Giovinazzi and his mistake has definitely fallen off the back, and we already have a few trains forming with us getting some distance over the field for the time being. Unlike qualifying and that whole Saturday where there was plenty of rain throughout that day, it is looking to be a dry day. Cloudy at times, but very much a dry day. 3.2 seconds ahead, pulling away. Let's speed things up. We are recovering that fuel. We were at 0.3. We're hovering back down to 0.2, but it's very slow, the recovery. I mean, it's already lap 8. Very simple one-stop strategy. Let's see who has kept the strategy. Wow, I'm surprised how many are going for the softs to hards. No one apparently going for, no one going for the hard to medium, which I expected some to go for. The medium to hard is definitely a better, faster strategy than being quick at the start on the softs and having to go longer on the hards. But the fuel is good. Tire wear we expended a little bit early on to get us a gap, and those on the softs already starting to pit. 5 guys in and going backwards. Somebody with a little mistake there.
Oh, we've had a spin.
It's Gasly with a spin. And Gasly has dropped to P17. He's already pit. Dewitt getting around Porsche. Norris, Russell, and Verstappen. Oof, Verstappen has caught up. Wow, he's all the way up to P3. And then the 2 Ferraris are a bit off the back. There's field is spread. Field is very much spread out here. Lap 18. We're going to extend by at least 1 lap here. 5.4 ahead. And others are pitting, so I have a feeling we're going to lose ground. I mean, Verstappen pulled back a half a second already. We're now 9 seconds ahead of Verstappen. All those other guys around him pit, so he is no longer the virtual P3. He lost only 4 seconds, amazingly. That's not much considering he spun out. He got going again real quick there, but that's going to back him down the order a little bit anyway. Field was spreading out, so it won't back him up too far. Okay, now as we go past the start-finish line, Porsche will pit this lap. And somebody has crashed. Somebody has crashed. Local yellows. Local yellows.
We've just had a crash on the track.
We need to see
Let's
this.
Take a look at the replay.
And pause.
Now, just watch the Mercedes
depending on the severity of this crash, we could be looking at a situation where just run. Ooh. Yes, that was Ocon. Ocon is running again. He is missing the side of his wing, so it was definitely Ocon. Porsche into the pits. No double stack necessary for doing. The yellow's already cleared. But Porsche into the pits obviously should be holding P1. He's only a lap or 2 behind these guys pitting wise. 2.529. Pit stops are getting faster and faster with better crew chiefs. And we are ahead. Meant to be pushing the whole lap. We're going to only push half a lap. 14.3 advantage over Porsche. So you can see where it's about a 15-second pit delta. Porsche, meanwhile, has a 6.5-second advantage over Norris. So they didn't gain on us. We actually got further away. Of course, Verstappen was at the head of that group and has already caught back up following his pit stop after his mistake, after his spin. But that is the 2 Red Bulls in P4, P5. And meanwhile, Jack Doohan will go on board for this one as he finishes up his lap and heads into the pit stops. And we continue to push on for now, but we'll settle down as soon as we get back out there. Here's the chicane. There is pit road. Good entry so far. Can we get a 2.5 for him as well? 2.6. 2.6. So almost the same time as his teammate, and comes out just behind him. 1 lap fresher tires, a little more fuel to burn. Doohan certainly has every opportunity to potentially win this race in terms of the batteries. We used up just a little bit of energy at the start of the race, but very little. So they're both in good shape there. 7-second advantage over the chasing pack, which means all we got to do is continue on and hope that rain does not fall, which it's not supposed to, but it's certainly not a completely ruled out scenario as that lap is in the books. And we begin lap 23 of 44. We are now past halfway. And having just gone onto the hard compound, you know that they'll easily make it to the end of the race. DRS, the advantage down that long straight. Doohan takes the lead. I think they should be swapping back and forth. Just as long as they don't crash, it's extra XP for all of those overtakes or successful blocked or even the failed overtake attempts. All of those give extra XP to the drivers. So having them nose to tail is good. as long as they keep it clean. Verstappen looking rapid. Remember, he does have brand new components. Doohan, by the way, has a pretty poor gearbox in 60 something percent, where Porsche. I think I might have said do it a second ago. Porsche, 60 something percent gearbox, an engine that's also only about 80%, where Doohan has a high 80% engine and a high 80% gearbox. He's got some better components. Remember, we've already taken the full range of penalties with Doohan to get him the extra components. Porsche has had damage that others did not have.
Is that a lockup?
Bottas with a lockup, but anyway. Porsche has been involved in incidents where the gearbox has been rattled, and he has no good gearbox left. But unlike Doohan, where we took that full range of penalties to get the extra components, Porsche, all we've done is pick up an extra gearbox so far, with a one minor penalty that we picked up. So he's a little behind in terms of the wear and the available components. But meanwhile, Verstappen is coming back at us. He's now just 3 seconds behind, and he's dragging Norris and Russell with him. So this is actually a really bad scenario for us, that we are potentially losing things here. Doohan, let's push on a little bit and keep them out of DRS range, and hope that their tire advantage will not last. Let's hope that Verstappen gets out of range of Russell and Norris and stops dragging them towards us. He is 9/10 ahead right now, at just over a second. He is just over a second, but they get DRS anyway. They got DRS anyway, and that's now pulled. That's pulled Verstappen into our window. And it's a lap 30. Lap 30. We are in really great shape tire wear wise. But so are they. We only pit, about a lap or so after them, and they're a little bit better on tire wear. So we don't have much of an advantage. With 2 laps later, 3 laps later than those guys. Just has already kind of equalized, neutralized. Sainz only at 65%. Albon on the mediums and struggling. So there's your big gap. Front 5 now all together, though, after a great start and pulling away. Porsche are almost right on the fuel now. That's Doohan we ride on board with, though. Maybe Porsche is one to keep an eye on here, and maybe from this perspective, so we can see what's going on in front and behind us at the same time. Verstappen, clearly the faster of the trio. He's the one that drug Russell and Norris up to us. But on the hard compound, at least, he's the quicker. With the fresh engine components, he's the quicker. So this race is far from being a foregone conclusion. Of course, it was already far from being a foregone conclusion, because there was always the risk of these two doing something. And we've seen so many incidents at Spa, unlike other tracks. This final chicane just before the start-finish line has been Russell and Norris both seeming to hang back a little bit, and then they get the DRS and kind of close it back up. But oh, here we go. Verstappen is coming through the DRS that time. Oh, and then a big run wide problem for Porsche. Porsche runs wide, rejoins the track in P5 and loses time, loses ground. And you saw it. You saw him run wide there. That's not even a spot where you really run wide, but okay, fine. He runs wide, and now it's going to be coming from behind. 4 seconds back. Can he close up? Verstappen was certainly faster. Remember, we had a 6-second advantage, and he caught us, and Verstappen now leads from Doohan. So chances of Porsche catching back up are rather slim. Russell, again, right about a second behind. Again, 9/10 ahead. And no DRS that time. No DRS. So we had actually just gotten him out. But here we go again. We come out of turn 1, and he's at 0.985. And gets DRS. That flap is open. Doohan. Challenging Verstappen. Clearly capable still, though having a difficult time getting around Verstappen. Right now I'm just more interested in the getting Russell out of range. It's not that I'm trying to take the lead right now. I'd rather take it on the final lap. But if Porsche was going to get back into this, it it involves dropping Russell and Norris. So that's kind of the key that I'm looking at there. Again, challenging the Red Bull, but not quite getting by. But we're not using the battery. We're not using the tires. It's clear that if we put up all three, we should be able to get that overtake done on the final lap. But unfortunately, Pourchaire looks like he is now locked in for P5. He is just too far behind. In fact, he still has not recovered that last ounce of fuel that he needs. Let's go ahead and help him with that. Russell a little closer this time. Pourchaire now 7.5 seconds back, but well ahead of Sainz. Definitely missing out on some points today. This time we get the inside, but still only slightly up alongside Verstappen, who does not slam the door shut the way he would in real life, where he would just drive right across you and force you off track and get away with it. Not now! Shoot, that was the detection zone right there.
Nice work.
Full deploy. Full deploy. He's going to have the DRS. That was not what we wanted. Because we're side by side. He's got better pace, and he's got the DRS here. Doing messes it up.
Keep pushing.
Comes up on Verstappen early, and now has nothing doing. Oh, come on, Jack doing. How could you? We'll ride on board. No threat behind. Russell and Norris have been hanging back all race long. But here we are on this final lap, doing what we can. And yeah, Jack Doohan had his perfect window of opportunity and completely messed it up by passing Verstappen too early and giving Verstappen the DRS down the long straight. And here we are heading into the final two corners, stuck behind, and it's not going to be a win today. It's a P2. Verstappen claims a win. Russell, Norris, Pourchaire is fifth. They're going to gain a few points on us. Not a big deal on that part, but definitely gave away a almost certain victory with Doohan in perfect position, messing it up by being ahead at that detection zone where you set yourself up for who's got the DRS. The DRS and the overtake was easy. Even with all the push, he's got too much pace. And as that flap opened up here, he just squeezed past us. We just didn't quite have enough about us because we were ahead when we needed to be just behind. I had turned the fuel up just a hair before that, but we shouldn't have been trying to overtake there. I mean, that was supposed to close us up on the gearbox, not suddenly have us ahead. And I had only just hit it. Doohan already had that overtake in his head. He was already making that move to the inside as I turned it up. So that was on him. Fifth for Pourchaire, though. Definitely disappointing that he took himself out of that battle, but at least he still managed to get fifth and didn't crash out. One thing we'll need to keep an eye on here in the second half of the season is the cost cap. We are going crazy trying to get those research projects done, and it certainly comes at a cost. We have already spent 2/3 of our funding for the entirety of the year. We have just 41 million remaining. Current projection says that we'll have just 15 million remaining at the end of the year, but of course I don't think that's taking into account all of the research projects that I'm doing. So here's a big focus of what's going to happen in the second half of the season, is watching just how close we get to going through the entirety of our cost cap.
It's another historic weekend of Formula One here at Zandvoort. The track has seen many unforgettable moments, like Gilles Villeneuve's three-wheeled lap at the 1979 Dutch Grand Prix, which cost him victory. What excitement lies ahead this year? There's never a dull moment at Circuit Zandvoort. It's fast, very fast, with long straights and wide curves. But it also features two heavy banked corners, where aerodynamic improvements are sure to help our drivers. This is it. We're down to the last few races of the season, and it's time for that final push. Who will be crowned champion at the end of it all? We'll find out soon enough. The weekend begins here.
Q3 final flying lap at Zandvoort, riding on board with Pourchaire, who is already carrying a penalty. We put a brand new engine in, but not the other components. So we're inching our way through it, taking minor penalties instead of going straight to the back of the grid. Seemed like a good day to do it, largely because he is one of 8 cars carrying a penalty. Doohan, though, slow in the first sector. Pourchaire is fast in the first 2 sectors, but not purple anywhere. Russell put in a bad first lap, but he goes really quick on his second lap. They sit with the front row locked out. Pourchaire goes P3, and Doohan does not improve. He only goes P6. Really poor lap from Doohan. Pourchaire with the penalty is going to go backwards, and you can see lots of penalties around us. Shouldn't back us up too much, but you figure Pourchaire is going to probably be, I don't know, 6 grid spot penalty, something like that, maybe 4 for the engine. I'm not sure what the exact penalty is for that particular part. We were 2/10 off the pace, though, of the Red Bulls. They are quick here. They're going to be difficult to beat.
I don't want to tempt fate, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Williams here. A top 10 position today, but will they be able to capitalise on it? And looking at the second Williams car. They're in the front half of the pack, so there's plenty of potential for them. Everything's been building to this. The drivers are ready and the crowds are waiting. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go.
We are racing, and Pourchaire with a 6 grid spot penalty starts from P9. Doohan starts from P5. He's already down to P6, and Pourchaire almost got up to P8, but could not get the overtake on Gasly done off the start there. We are on the hard compound. I'm guessing we're the first ones. We're the only ones on the hard compound going the other way. Everybody else is using softer medium, so Pourchaire, hopefully he can get in and secure that P9. He'll have an advantage at the end of the race that nobody else will be able to match, but he's got to avoid a slow start. Meanwhile, Doohan has recovered, no, not quite recovered for P5, as he is battling with Sainz for that position right now. And Perez gets around Pourchaire, but Pourchaire battling back to keep P9 and are just behind Gasly. So Gasly seems to be kind of the X factor, and that is he's holding the group up. And we have a car gone wide from the front of the field. It's Russell. Russell runs wide and is down to last place. Still side by side.
You're doing good.
But that would be P7 for Pourchaire, and on the best future compound. If he can overtake these guys and be competitive now, this is looking brilliant. But he still has not been able to complete the job as of yet. Still side by side. And we do eventually pull ahead. Battery's empty, though. That is the battery. But let's settle in.
We want to leave court.
Okay, we didn't go too deep battery-wise, or fuel-wise. Pourchaire definitely went a bit deeper on the compound, as he's down to 93%. Doohan's at 93%, which means Pourchaire pushed pretty hard to use up that much of the hard compound. 72-lap race. We're 4 laps in. Albon has lost DRS, though, so that's problematic. P4. Doohan on some more used components today, where Pourchaire has that good engine, and we wanted him to be able to come forward and still be able to compete today as we were taking that penalty. So I gave him a better gearbox of what he had left. Actually, the new gearbox that we took that penalty on here recently, it's only the second time we've used it, so it's in great shape. As Pourchaire now challenging Albon, but 3.5 seconds behind those guys ahead. Will he have enough pace to lead this group? Fuel's already sorting itself out, so fuel looks like it's not going to be an issue. Doohan already back into a positive delta, so we should be able to, push at some point. Pourchaire is fast enough to go to the head of the group, but you can see he is losing pace compared to Verstappen, 4.5 seconds back. But again, Dewitt not closing up very quick, so he's pretty steady. He's not losing much ground when he tries to harvest, but he's definitely not gaining. So Verstappen's pace is hard for us to keep up with. Multiple cars have crashed in Sector 2. Looks like Ocon's going to get hit by the AlphaTauri, and does.
Really see the contact there, and that caused a lot of damage.
Both into the wall. Schumacher is the one that hit him in the AlphaTauri. Guan Yu Zhou goes into the pits. Russell goes into the pits. And the race resumes. Field spread out all over the place. Can we make any progress? Porsche going up the inside of the McLaren. No, he gets squeezed out. And Dewitt trying to challenge Norris. Will get up beside him. Looks like he's going to have P3 here. And also challenging Magnussen, who's been overtaken by Verstappen. Can we make it a 1-2 behind Verstappen? That would be a good place to be in for Dewitt. Especially all those guys on the soft compound, and you know they're going to pit earlier than we will. So getting them out of the way and getting up behind Verstappen is very much important for our race. Meanwhile, Porsche challenging for P5. That's Sainz that he's trying to get ahead of. Now leaving Albon behind, who was clearly off the pace earlier and has P5 secured. Battery was not fully charged. Even though we were in that safety car for a little while, it still was not enough for Porsche to get it charged. We had already partially charged, so we had it charged pretty quick. But of course, we just used some for his overtake, double overtakes to get up to P2. And so he's got some battery used. Meanwhile, Porsche, we held on a little bit longer to get his one overtake done. Of course, again, he's on that hard compound in a very different race strategy from everybody else. And with the field bunched up, is now looking pretty good. But Verstappen pulling away from Dewitt without the DRS. As DRS gets enabled, we need to close that up.
Okay, reduce lift and coast.
So watching with Dewitt 1.08. We need to close up on Verstappen. And we'll watch Porsche, who is 1.3 ahead of Sainz. So leaving Sainz behind with Magnussen and Norris. That's a good scenario. That's a good scenario. One that I can get on board with. Potential 1-3, how things are looking. Porsche is also going to be faster later, so if they don't get too far back, he's still got a chance to close that back up. Only lap 20, folks. It's still early in this race. Ocon is out of the race from that crash. Schumacher is 19th, possibly carrying damage, but he seems to be keeping up with Russell, who is now stuck in P18 after his pit stop. Russell on the hards, Guan Yu Zhou on the hards, Schumacher on the hards, but very early on, so they've got a long ways to go yet. And those on the softs getting closer to their pit window opening. And cars are into the pits. Magnussen, Norris, Sainz, Tsunoda, all pitting soft compound, pitting a little bit earlier than those on the mediums. So Porsche now sitting in P4. But Albon, almost 8 seconds behind Verstappen. And Dewitt, of course, keeping up with him. I doubt the overcut's going to work. Main thing here is to not lose ground. But Porsche into P2, Leclerc still with him, Zhou still with him, Russell a little off back all the way up in P5, and maybe not pitting again, which is going to be an interesting final laps if he's still out there trying to hang on. And we get inside a second. And get Schumacher outside of a second. Used up all of our battery. Can we get within DRS range though? There's the detection zone, and we've got it. Yes, that's going to close us down. Standard. Okay, so here's the new race scenario. Porsche leads from Guan Yu Zhou and Russell.
Okay, we want to increase lift and coast.
who have all pit. So Zhou and Russell have already pit. In fact, the entire field has now pit except Pourchaire. But Zhou, Russell, Schumacher all pit early. You're looking at now Verstappen and Doohan in the gap with these other guys that have already pit. And let's check. Schumacher, yeah. Everybody else is on the fresh stuff. Giovinazzi on the mediums, but way towards the back. So there's your alternative strategy. And then Zhou, Russell, Schumacher on a sort of alternative strategy of their own. The gap, Verstappen and Doohan just 5 seconds behind Pourchaire. Probably will close it up. Pourchaire at some point will probably hold them up. But when do I pit with him? He's completely on his own. He is dragging other cars around, so we don't necessarily like that status. But at least Doohan stays with Verstappen, who is still potentially the race favorite. Zhou gets around Pourchaire. Pourchaire falls all the way to P3 as they overtake him. But now he can benefit from the toe of them and pit even later and be that much quicker on the mediums and be able to push that much harder and hope that these guys have enough pace to pull away from cars behind. It looks like 15 seconds. They're coming that direction. But yeah, Pourchaire, we don't want to get caught up in that traffic. We want to hang on to this group and see it extend a lead, hopefully. The more traffic he gets caught up in, the worse his scenario is going to be. So we have to hope the field stretches. Schumacher is falling back, but Norris has slowly gained. Here comes Verstappen trying to make a move. That's not a big deal. He's fast. I understand him getting by. He's on the hards, we're on the hards, but we're on very used hards. And Verstappen's got those brand new components from last race that he's clearly got some extra pace again today. We were within a second, but we went back out again on the next corner. Multiple cars have crashed. Sector 3. We got a McLaren. We've got a... and safety car is starting.
Safety car.
But here we go. Off into the pits. Ooh, not the only one. Zhou is pitting as well. Smart move for him. But we are going to be on to the mediums, and we come out 2.515. Great stop. And we've got traffic going by. That's why you don't lose as much time. Schumacher comes out just ahead. And Zhou just ahead. Do it up to P3. Russell, Verstappen, Doohan, Schumacher, Zhou, Pourchaire, P6.
Use overtake.
And we resume racing with Pourchaire on board from P6, and he's immediately going to challenge Schumacher. He and Zhou both got around. Zhou goes onto the softs. No idea how we had less battery than we started the safety car with on Doohan. We were at 80%, and then he restarted the race at 60%. Even though we were harvesting the whole time during the safety car. Ooh, look at Zhou going through 3 wide. Oh, and who's losing out on that? It's Doohan.
So what DRS?
Zhou already all the way up to P2. Pourchaire now pushing through, but he's out of battery. Luckily, his teammate did not just shove him into the wall.
DRS is enabled.
I was harvesting for Doohan, so that's part of why that happened, I suppose. And here goes Pourchaire. Pourchaire needs to be going by. I mean, this is his race now as he's on that medium compound. Plenty of fuel for both cars to be able to make a push. Zhou into the lead. Verstappen second. Pourchaire third. Russell fourth. Doohan fifth. Norris is sixth. Magnussen is seventh and has closed up somehow. Russell, single car, makes his own mistake and takes himself out. Luckily, Luckily, we had a big enough gap over Russell. Oh my
Thank
goodness, he locks
nobody
up and
else was
goes
involved.
hard.
That
Hard
was a
into the
big
wall on that
crash.
one. That's probably a DNF type crash. That was not a light collision. And Russell is out. So Russell is out of this race. We're down to one Red Bull. Guan Yu Zhou leads. But Porsche in great shape in P3. And we restart on lap 53, now in P3, P4. Verstappen is the one we're challenging. Guan Yu Zhou on the softs has tremendous pace on the softs for now, but he's at 68%, and he's going to start losing that pace soon. As Porsche goes up the inside of Verstappen, who's on the hard compounds, I think Porsche has got to be the favorite to win this race now, right? Did not get a fully charged battery. Doohan did. And still cannot overtake. Keeps it up beside him, though. Nope, we don't. Yes, we do. Continuing to challenge. Somehow keeping it up the inside for a long battle there with Verstappen, and he's still there. I just want P2 for right now. Battery's empty. That was it. Just one lap of challenging, but we do have the position now. P2. Meanwhile, with Doohan, we are in P4. Let's back off. Doohan struggling to keep up. Magnussen is out of DRS range. Magnussen and Norris now out of DRS range as we again go into harvest. We're up to 60% now. Slowly but carefully for Porsche. We're definitely challenging, and we're up the inside. Battle's not done, though. He's still got some extra grip on the soft that we don't quite have. But we're clearly starting to challenge. Meanwhile, Doohan also needs to close up. Oh, Doohan's 1 second behind. Oh, that's leader. That's leader. 55% hards. He and Verstappen on the hards. Zhou on the softs. Porsche on the mediums. It's starting to pull away. Starting to pull away from Zhou, who's, of course, now at that point where he's fallen off that cliff on those softs. Doesn't quite have the pace. With the engine turned up, Porsche is clearly outpacing him.
You're doing very good.
Porsche sets a new fastest lap. And has some battery to defend with. At 62%, he's fine for now, but he's going to start to fall off the cliff at some point, too, in those last 10 laps or so. But we've already seen that the hards are quite slow at the end of their life. Doohan is going to be below that 50% threshold soon. Verstappen and Doohan are close. Norris is 5th at 5 seconds behind, so a big gap behind us. But Doohan kind of just struggling to keep pace, really. But Zhou, 1.4. Gap opening. 1.5. You can see how Verstappen now all over the back of Zhou without DRS. With the softs getting quite used here, Zhou, I think, is going to struggle to... It looks like P4, though. I mean, that's great for an Alfa Romeo. Into the chicane, side by side. Nope. Oh, we back out of it. We get up the inside again, though, as we enter the final banked corner and head down the straight in P3. Zhou pits. Zhou pits. Still trying to harvest. Still trying to harvest so we have something to get the job done. With the engine up, we're just about keeping pace with Verstappen right now, but at 42%. Thing is, he's also way down at 46, so he's in the same boat we are. So we can still make it happen. Neutral, starting to get a little too far back. But with enough battery now, I think, to complete the job and make the overtake here at the end of the race. Lap 69. Lap 71, and we do challenge Verstappen. There's the 3/10 we needed. And we get up the inside. And we are through. We are through. We are now 1/10 ahead. We are now 1/10 ahead. We will switch to defend or switch to overtake. Still getting challenged. Still getting challenged by Verstappen. Let's see the battle. 2.7. Battery empty already. Seriously? Gotta go neutral. Gotta go attack.
Let's close this gap.
You're gonna make a mistake. Just make sure you take out Verstappen with you as we drop. We drop back behind Verstappen as we enter the final lap. I told you it wasn't an automatic getting ahead of him.
Pushing.
Going neutral will give us a little bit here on this last lap. Porsche 2.7 ahead. Full deploy, even though there's nothing there to deploy. It's going to be a 1-3 finish. Porsche comes around the final corner. Takes the win, and Doohan takes P3. But 2 cars on the podium, and Red Bull with 1 car not finishing the race is a huge points day for us, especially when you add in the victory portion of that. Fastest lap going to Guan Yu Zhou, who came out on that soft compound but then pits an extra time and finishes in P12 outside of the points entirely. Magnussen was 10 seconds behind. We held that 2.7 gap, driving conservatively with Porsche at the end, conserving those components. It's a good race. It's a very good race. Let's check in on the point standings. Porsche now with 255 in the Drivers' Championship. Doohan is second. Verstappen has taken over third from George Russell, just 5 points ahead of him. In the Constructors, with a very good day, which definitely offset the not so great first day of this episode. After 15 rounds, just 7 to go. Less than a third of the championship remains, and we are 139 points ahead. Folks, that's not enough, but that's getting there. That's getting there. We don't have to be winning those last 7 races. We need to be finishing in the points, though. So we need to avoid DNS. That's going to be the big thing down the stretch. We don't have to be the quickest anymore to win. We are far enough into the season and have done well enough, especially over the middle third of the season, that we have secured, 6 wins out of 7? Something along those lines? Or maybe 5 out of 7, or I don't know where we're even at on that. Maybe 7 out of the last 9 races have been victories. It's been very good. In fact, what do we have? Total, we have 10 wins on the season and 13 podium finishes in 15 races. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. We've won 2/3 of the races so far. Red Bull with just 3 wins and 10 podiums. Ferrari with a win. Alpine with a win. McLaren is just a few points behind Alpine now. They've been very, very good of late. Or no, actually, it's been the other way around, hasn't it? Alpine has been very good of late. Mercedes, Alfa Romeo coming on real strong now, looking like the 6th best team at this stage. They've been focusing on this year's car a little bit too much. You're seeing some teams really struggle, and Haas scored just their 3rd point of the season by finishing in 10th. Aston Martin on 2 points, dead last. Those two really, really struggling behind everybody else. Things are looking really good, though, for that potential of winning both the drivers and the constructors this year. And we've focused so heavily on next year's car that we could be looking really good for next year as well. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.